I had 5 seconds before the polished steel of his handgun became the last thing I ever saw. My fingers trembled against the glossy photo paper, smearing the red marker ink I'd just used to circle the evidence. The prints felt heavy in my hands, like lead weights that could sink us both. Outside, the storm battered the floor-to-ceiling windows, howling against the glass. But in here, the silence was heavier than the thunder, thick with the smell of expensive leather and gun oil. I stood before the mahogany desk like a convict awaiting a death sentence. Ju Taehyun sat in the high-backed leather chair, the city lights framing him like a halo of cold fire. He looked like a man carved from ice, sharp jawline, jet black hair slicked back, and a navy suit that cost more than my family made in a decade. In his hands, he held my professional DSLR camera, turning it over with a terrifyingly slow, predatory rhythm. To him, I was just the maid, a shadow in the hallway, a stalker. He didn't know I was the only reason he was still breathing. 2 hours ago, the laundry room in the East Wing hadn't just been for washing sheets. It was my dark room, the only place the house cameras didn't see. I had been developing the final roll of film when I saw the reflection in the window of photo number 32. It wasn't a shadow. It was Director Choi pouring the vial. "You like to watch me sleep?" Taehyun asked. His voice was low and dangerous. He slid a glossy photo across the smooth, dark wood of his desk. In the picture, he was napping on a lounge chair by the pool. His eyes were closed, his guard was down. It looked private. It looked like something a secret admirer would keep under their pillow. "And here," he said, sliding another one across the surface. "Me eating breakfast. Me walking to my car. Me talking on the phone in the garden." He looked up at me, his eyes cold and hard like stone. "Do you think I am handsome, Mira? Is that it? Do you want to be part of my life?" He laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. It was sharp, like glass breaking. "You are a maid. You are supposed to be invisible. You thought you could collect these trophies, and I would never know." He reached for the black gun sitting on the corner of the desk. His fingers brushed the cold metal. "No," I said. The word hung in the air. Maids did not say no to Ju Taehyun. Maids cleaned up messes and disappeared. They did not speak back to the most dangerous man in the city. He stopped, his hand hovering over the weapon. He looked surprised, then angry. His jaw tightened. "Excuse me? You are looking at the wrong thing," I said. My heart was beating so hard I thought he could hear it echoing in the quiet room. But my hands stopped shaking. I reached into my apron pocket and pulled out my thick red marker. I stepped up to the desk. This was forbidden. I was too close. I could smell his expensive cologne, mixed with the smell of old paper and gun oil. "You see yourself," I said, my voice steady now. "Because you're used to everyone looking at you. You are the sun everyone revolves around. But I don't look at you, sir. I look at what is standing in your shadow." I grabbed the photo of him sleeping by the pool. I uncapped the marker. The smell of the ink was sharp. I drew a bright red circle in the dark leaves of the bushes behind his head. "Look," I commanded. Taehyun frowned. He leaned in, his eyes narrowing. "The sun glinting on metal," I whispered, pointing at the spot I had circled. "That is not a leaf. That is a camera lens. A long-range one. Someone else was watching you sleep, Mr. Ju. I was just watching them." I took the photo of him eating breakfast. I circled the hand of the waiter pouring his coffee. "Look at the ring," I said, tapping the photo hard. "That is the silver snake crest of the Viper clan. Why is a member of a rival gang serving you coffee in your own kitchen?" Taehyun went perfectly still. He picked up the photo, bringing it close to his face. He stared at the tiny silver ring on the waiter's finger. His face turned pale, the anger draining away to be replaced by shock. "I am not your stalker, sir," I said softly. "I am the only one in this house who is actually paying attention." Taehyun stared at the photos scattered across the mahogany desk. His face was pale, like he had seen a ghost. But the ghost wasn't dead yet. It was standing right there in the glossy print. "This one," I said, sliding the most important photo in front of him. "Taken 3 days ago. You were on a conference call. You look angry in the picture, shouting at someone on the speakerphone." Taehyun looked at himself in the photo. He nodded slowly. "I remember. I was firing the logistics manager." "Look behind you," I whispered. I took the red marker again. My hand moved quickly. I drew a circle around the man standing by the crystal drinks cart in the corner of the office. It was Director Choi, Taehyun's godfather, the man who had raised him since he was a boy. In the photo, Choi was holding Taehyun's silver pill case, but his other hand was hovering over an open vial of clear liquid. He wasn't getting Taehyun's medicine. He was swapping it. Taehyun picked up the photo. His hand shook just a little. He brought it closer to his face. The high-quality lens had captured everything. The tiny label on the vial in Choi's hand. The way Choi was looking at Taehyun's back with cold, hard eyes. He mixes my tonic every morning," Taehyun said, his voice sounding hollow. "For my migraines." He dropped the photo onto the desk as if it burned him. He looked up at me, and I saw real fear in his eyes for the first time. "The headaches. They have been getting worse for weeks. I thought it was stress. I thought I was working too hard. I have been drinking poison every day." "It's not stress, sir," I said quietly. "It's murder." Slow and quiet. Taehyun stood up suddenly. His heavy leather chair scraped loud and harsh against the floor. Anger replaced the shock on his face. "Security," he snapped. He reached for the black intercom button on his desk console. "I need Chief Park. I need to lock this house down. I will have Choi dragged to the basement." "No," I shouted. I did something crazy then. I reached out and slammed my hand over his, stopping him from pressing the button. His skin was cold. He looked at me with wild eyes, his muscles tense, ready to strike me for touching him. "Don't touch that button," I said, not backing down. "Look at photo number 4. I pointed to a picture of the hallway outside his office. It showed the head of security, Chief Park. He wasn't guarding the door. He was whispering with Director Choi, and Choi was handing him a thick, white envelope. "Park isn't working for you anymore," I told him, my voice trembling. "If you call security, you are calling the people who want you dead. There is no one coming to help you, Mr. Ju. You are all alone in this house." Taehyun looked at the intercom, then at the heavy oak door, and finally back at me. The silence in the room felt heavy, like the air before a storm. "Not alone," he corrected me, his dark eyes locking onto mine. "I have you." The silence in the office didn't last long. A sudden, high-pitched siren cut through the air, making me jump. It wasn't a fire alarm. It was deeper, angrier. "Security breach," a robotic voice announced from the ceiling speakers.
Sector 4.
Executive suite. Lockdown initiated. Heavy steel shutters slammed down over the big windows behind Taehyun's desk, blocking out the gray city light. The room plunged into gloom, lit only by the red emergency strips on the floor. Taehyun looked at the security monitor on his desk. The screen flashed red. "Choi." He spat the name out like poison. He knows. He saw the camera feed cut out, or he saw me hesitate. He isn't taking chances. "What does lockdown mean?" I asked, clutching my apron. "It means the door's locked from the outside," Taehyun said, moving fast now. He stripped off his expensive suit jacket and tossed it aside. He rolled up his white sleeves, revealing thick forearms. "It means no one gets in and no one gets out alive."
Boom.
The heavy oak doors to the office shook. Someone on the other side was hitting them with a battering ram. "They're coming," Taehyun said. He grabbed the black handgun from the desk, the same one he had threatened me with just minutes ago. He didn't keep it. He turned and shoved the cold metal into my hands. "Take it," he ordered. I stared at the weapon. I've never fired a gun. I just take pictures." "Learn fast," he said, his eyes fierce. "Get behind the desk. Stay low. Do not come out unless I am dead." Do you understand? But
Go, he roared.
I scrambled behind the heavy mahogany desk, curling into a ball on the thick carpet. I gripped the gun with both hands, my fingers trembling. The office doors exploded inward. Wood splinters rained down like jagged confetti. Through the gap, two men in black tactical gear stormed in. They wore helmets and carried batons that crackled with electricity. They weren't here to arrest us. They were here to erase us. Taehyun didn't wait for them. He didn't have a gun anymore, but he didn't need one. He moved like a blur. The first attacker swung the electric baton at Taehyun's head. Taehyun ducked, smooth as water. He grabbed the man's wrist, twisted it with a sickening crack, and drove his elbow into the man's throat. The guard dropped, gasping for air. The second man lunged. Taehyun grabbed a heavy crystal award from his shelf and smashed it into the man's helmet. The visor shattered. The man staggered back, blinded. Taehyun kicked him hard in the chest, sending him flying back into the hallway. It was over in seconds. It was brutal, fast, and terrifying. Taehyun stood in the center of the ruined room, breathing hard. He looked wild, dangerous. He turned to look at where I was hiding. "You can come out now," he said, wiping a speck of blood from his cheek. "But keep the gun. We are leaving." "To the garage," Taehyun said, stepping over the unconscious guard. He checked the magazine in the gun I held, then took it back from me, tucking it into his belt. "My armored car is there. It has bulletproof glass." "No," I said, grabbing his sleeve. The fabric was silk, but my hands were covered in dust from hiding. "That is exactly where they want you to go. The garage has one exit. They will be waiting with machine guns." He looked at me, impatient and sweating. "Then where?" "The front gate is sealed. The roof is too exposed." "Follow me," I said. "We go the way the trash goes." I didn't lead him to the grand staircase or the elevator. Instead, I ran to a narrow panel in the hallway wall. It looked like part of the decoration. He had probably walked past it 1,000 times and never seen it. I pressed a hidden latch and the panel clicked open. "What is this?" he asked, staring into the darkness behind the wall. "Service corridor," I whispered. "For the staff. We use it to move dirty linens and cleaning carts so the guests don't have to look at us." We squeezed inside. It was tight, smelling of old soap and damp concrete. The walls were rough, unfinished brick, not the polished mahogany of the main house. Taehyun's expensive suit brushed against a rusty pipe, leaving a streak of orange rust on the navy wool. He looked completely out of place, like a king lost in a sewer. "This leads to the basement?" he asked, his voice echoing slightly in the cramped space. "Lower," I said. "Sub-basement. The laundry chutes feed into a collection room. From there is a tunnel to the old incinerator by the river gate. It hasn't been used in years." We ran down the narrow metal stairs, our footsteps clanging softly. Above us, through the thin walls, I could hear heavy boots thumping on the marble floors of the hallway we had just left. Shouts echoed. "Clear the west wing. Find them." They were hunting him in the light. We were moving in the dark. We reached the bottom. It was a dead end, blocked by a large metal door labeled linen chute. "It's too steep to walk," I said, looking at the metal slide that spiraled down into the dark. "We have to slide." Taehyun looked at the dark hole, then at his suit, then at me. "You want me to slide down a laundry chute? You want to live?" I shot back. He didn't argue. He sat on the edge of the metal slide and pushed off. I followed him instantly. We rushed down into the dark, twisting and turning, until we were dumped out onto a massive pile of soft, dirty towels in the sub-basement. I scrambled off the pile. "Through here." I pointed to a small, rusted hatch near the floor. Taehyun stood up and brushed lint from his jacket. He looked up at the ceiling of the basement, listening to the muffled sirens from his own house. "I didn't know these tunnels existed," he admitted, looking at me with a strange expression. "That's the point of being a maid, sir," I said, opening the hatch to the cool night air outside. We go where you don't look. My apartment was 5 miles away, tucked above a noodle shop that smelled like garlic and steam. It was nothing like the Jew estate. The front door had 3 locks because the neighborhood wasn't safe, but tonight I was bringing the most dangerous thing in the city inside with me. Taehyun stepped into my living room and stopped. He looked around like he had landed on Mars. "It is compact," he said, trying to be polite. He was still wearing his ruined suit, covered in dust and rust stains. He looked too big for the room, like a tiger in a shoebox. "It's home," I said, locking the door behind us. "And it's safe. Choi doesn't know where I live. My file at the agency lists my aunt's address." He walked past my small sofa, careful not to knock over the stacks of photography magazines on the floor. He stared at the walls. They were covered in photos. Not creepy ones of him, but pictures of the city. Rain on pavement, stray cats, the neon lights of the market. "You have a darkroom?" he asked, spotting the red light bulb above the bathroom door.
Yes.
"Digital is faster, but I still develop film sometimes. It teaches you patience." "We don't have time for patience," he said, wincing as he sat on my cheap wooden chair. He pulled the memory card from his pocket. "We need to see what else you found." I set up my laptop on the small kitchen table. Taehyun pulled up a chair next to me. Our shoulders brushed. In the mansion, I would have been fired for standing this close. Here, we were just 2 people hiding from a death squad. We scrolled through the files. Hundreds of images. Most were useless, blurry shots of the garden, the staff entrance. "Wait," Taehyun said, pointing at the screen. "Go back." I clicked the back arrow. The photo was dark, taken at night through the iron gate of the estate. It showed a black sedan parked on the street. 2 men were standing by the open window. One was Director Choi. The other man was wearing a long coat, his face hidden by a hat. "Zoom in," Taehyun ordered. I cropped the image and enhanced the brightness. The man in the hat was handing Choi a briefcase. But it wasn't the briefcase that mattered. It was the ring on the man's finger. "The Viper clan again," I whispered. "The same crest as the waiter." Taehyun cursed softly. "That is Han Jinsu, the head of the Viper clan. He has been trying to take over the Gangnam territory for 10 years. He leaned back, running a hand through his hair. "Choi isn't just killing me. He is selling my entire organization to my enemies. He is going to open the gates to the Vipers." "When?" I asked. Taehyun looked at the timestamp on the photo. "Tomorrow night. The shareholder gala. All the clan leaders will be there. If Choi kills me in front of them, he looks strong. Then he hands the keys to the Vipers." He looked at me, his eyes burning with a new kind of intensity. "We have the proof. But a photo on a laptop isn't enough. We need to show them. All of them." Taehyun tried to stand up, but his legs gave out. He grabbed the edge of my small kitchen table, his knuckles turning white. The laptop wobbled. "The poison," he whispered, his voice sounding like sandpaper. "It is faster than I thought." He stumbled, knocking over a chair. I caught him before he hit the floor. He was heavy, dead weight against me, but I didn't let go. I dragged him over to my small sofa and helped him lie down. His skin was gray and covered in a cold sweat. He was shivering, even though the apartment was warm. The man who had taken down 2 armed guards with his bare hands an hour ago was now shaking like a leaf. "I need water," he gasped. I ran to the sink. I didn't have crystal glasses or expensive bottled water. I filled a chipped mug with tap water and brought it to him. I lifted his head, supporting his neck with my arm, and helped him drink. He drank greedily, some of it spilling onto his ruined shirt. "I am sorry," he mumbled, closing his eyes. "I look weak." "You are alive," I said firmly. I went to the bathroom and got a cool, damp washcloth. I wiped the sweat from his forehead. It felt strange to touch him like this. At the mansion, I wasn't even allowed to make eye contact. Now his life was literally in my hands. "Choi wins," Taehyun said, his eyes still closed. He has 40 men. He has the police in his pocket.
He has the Viper clan.
I have a maid and a headache.
Stop it, I said.
I sat on the floor next to the sofa. You are thinking like a soldier. You want to fight him with guns.
You will lose that fight.
You are right. We are outnumbered. He opened one eye. It was bloodshot. So we run. No, I said. I pointed to the laptop on the table, where the photos of the betrayal were still glowing on the screen. We don't need bullets, Mr. Jew. We have the truth. Information is stronger than an army if you use it right. Taehyun pushed himself up to a sitting position. He winced, holding his head, but he was listening. The shareholder gala is tomorrow night, he said slowly. At the Grand Hotel. Every crime boss, every corrupt politician, every investor will be there. Choi will be on stage, announcing his takeover. He expects to announce that I died of a sudden illness. Exactly, I said. He thinks you are dead or hiding in a hole. He thinks he is already one. Taehyun looked at me, and a ghost of a smile touched his lips. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of a predator who just spotted prey. If I walk onto that stage, he whispered, alive and breathing, he will panic. And while he panics, I added, we show everyone what he did. We don't just kill him, sir. We destroy him. Taehyun took a deep breath, fighting the pain in his body. He looked at the camera sitting on the table. Get your equipment ready, Mira, he said. We are going to a party. The Grand Hotel ballroom was a sea of diamonds, velvet, and expensive suits. I moved through the crowd, but I wasn't part of it. I was wearing black cargo pants and a generic black polo shirt with a heavy headset around my neck. I carried my camera bag and a tripod over my shoulder. To the billionaires and gang leaders sipping champagne, I was just staff. I was part of the furniture. Invisible. Again. I slipped past the security guards at the audiovisual booth in the back of the room. They didn't even look at my badge. Who pays attention to the person fixing the projector? I set up my laptop on the control desk and plugged a thick black cable into the hotel's main system. My hands were sweating, but I kept my face blank. I was terrified, but I had a job to do. Then, the double doors of the main entrance swung open. The jazz music didn't stop, but the conversation did. A silence rippled through the room, starting at the door and moving like a wave all the way to the stage. Ju Taehyun walked in. He wore a crisp black tuxedo that fit him perfectly, but it couldn't hide everything. His skin was pale, almost like marble. He walked slowly, every step looking like it cost him energy. He didn't look like the invincible king tonight. He looked like a ghost. But he was a ghost that everyone was terrified of. Whispers broke out around me. I thought he was dying. A woman in a red dress hissed near the booth. Choi said he was in a coma. A man replied, looking nervous. Taehyun didn't look at the crowd. He kept his eyes locked on the stage. He walked straight down the center aisle, the crowd parting for him like the Red Sea. Director Choi was standing near the podium, holding a glass of champagne. He looked ready to give a victory speech. When he saw Taehyun, his smile froze. It didn't break, but it stopped reaching his eyes. He set his glass down on a passing waiter's tray with a little too much force. The glass tipped over, spilling gold liquid, but Choi didn't notice. I zoomed in with my camera lens from the back of the room. I needed to see what they were doing. I saw Choi tap his earpiece. I saw him look at three men standing near the heavy velvet curtains behind the stage. These men weren't hotel security. They stood too still. They had bulges under their jackets that were definitely not wallets. Choi didn't panic. He adjusted his silk tie and gave a tiny, almost invisible nod to the men. The message was clear. Let him get to the stage. Let him think he made it. Then end him. Taehyun reached the stairs to the stage. He gripped the railing, his knuckles white. He was walking into a trap, and he knew it. I typed a command into my laptop. My finger hovered over the enter key. Look at me, Choi. I whispered to myself. Don't look at the ghost. Look at the screen. Taehyun stepped up to the microphone. The heavy wooden podium looked like it was the only thing holding him up. His face was pale, almost gray, under the bright stage lights. The room went silent. Hundreds of eyes watched him. They were waiting for a speech about profits and the future. In the back of the room, Director Choi smiled. He stood with his arms crossed, looking proud. He thought Taehyun was about to collapse. He thought this was the moment the empire would fall into his hands. He was wrong. I wasn't in the maids' quarters. I was crouching near the front of the stage, dressed in black clothes like the other event staff. A large camera hung around my neck. In my hand, I held a small remote control linked to the main projector. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. Taehyun looked out at the crowd.
He didn't speak.
He just looked at me. That was the signal. I pressed the button. Behind Taehyun, the giant screen that displayed the company logo flickered. The logo disappeared. A new image appeared, 10 feet tall and crystal clear. The room gasped. It was a photo of Director Choi. He wasn't smiling in this one. He was in the dark hallway, pouring a small vial of clear liquid into Taehyun's private decanter. The red circle I had drawn on the print was now glowing on the massive screen. Choi's smile vanished. He took a step forward, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. I pressed the button again.
Click.
The next image flashed up. It showed Choi sitting at a table with the leaders of the rival gang. He was shaking hands. A briefcase of money sat open between them. "What is this?" someone shouted from the front row. The murmurs turned into angry shouts. The shareholders were standing up. They looked from the screen to Choi, their faces full of shock and rage. Taehyun stood taller now. He didn't look sick anymore. He looked dangerous. "The rot is deep," he said into the microphone, his voice booming through the speakers. "But I have cut it out." Choi panicked. He realized there was no way out. His eyes went wild. He reached into his jacket, not for a phone, but for a gun. At the same time, one of the waiters near the stage dropped his tray. He pulled out a silenced pistol and aimed it right at Taehyun's chest. Taehyun was looking at Choi. He didn't see the assassin to his left. I didn't think. I didn't scream. I moved. I jumped up from my hiding spot, right in front of the assassin. I raised my camera and aimed it directly at his face. I held down the shutter button.
Flash. Flash. Flash.
The high-speed strobe light exploded in the assassin's eyes. He yelled and flinched, blinded by the sudden burst of white light. His shot went wide, smashing into the plaster wall behind Taehyun. Taehyun spun around. He saw the assassin stumbling, rubbing his eyes. He saw me standing there, my camera raised like a weapon. Choi screamed in fury and lunged at Taehyun, a knife flashing in his hand. Taehyun didn't hesitate. He drew his own weapon from his waistband in one smooth motion. He didn't look weak. He looked like the boss.
Bang!
The shot echoed through the ballroom. Choi stopped mid-step, then crumpled to the floor. The assassin dropped his gun and raised his hands. Silence fell over the room again. Taehyun lowered his gun. He looked at the crowd, then he looked at me. He nodded just once. The message was clear. We had won. The house was quiet. It wasn't the scary kind of quiet from before, when secrets were hidden in the walls. It was the silence of a storm that had finally blown over. Director Choi was gone. The men who worked for him had been cleared out of the syndicate. The danger was over, but my stomach was still in knots. I stood outside the heavy oak doors of Mr. Ju's office. I smoothed down the front of my maid uniform. I had gone back to cleaning the morning after the gala, but it felt wrong. I knew too much now. In this world, people like me who saw the truth didn't usually get to stay. They were paid to leave, or they disappeared. "Come in," his voice called out. It was deep and steady. I pushed the door open and walked onto the plush carpet. Taehyun was standing by the floor-to-ceiling window, looking out at the city lights. He looked powerful again, like a king surveying his land. He turned as I approached.
"Sit down, Mira," he said.
I sat on the edge of the leather chair. My hands were shaking just a little, so I clasped them in my lap. Sir, if this is about my severance pay, I understand. I have already packed my things. I can be gone tonight. Taehyun looked at me for a long moment. His face was unreadable, just like in the photos. Then he reached under his desk and pulled out a sleek black box. He slid it across the smooth mahogany surface toward me. Open it, he ordered softly. I lifted the lid. Inside wasn't money or a termination letter. It was a camera. But not just any camera. It was top-tier, professional equipment with a massive lens, far better than the old DSLR I had used to save his life. I looked up at him, confused. I don't need a maid to clean the dust anymore, Taehyun said. He placed a thick paper contract next to the box. I have plenty of people to clean floors. I need someone who sees the dirt before it sticks. I looked down at the paper. The title at the top read, Head of Internal Security. You saw what my entire security team missed, he continued. You watched from the shadows when everyone else was blind. You saved this company. You saved me. He leaned forward, his dark eyes locking onto mine. I am offering you a new position. You will be my shadow. You will use this lens to watch everything and everyone. No more hiding. You are the eyes of my empire now. My heart pounded in my chest. I wasn't being thrown away. I was being promoted. I reached out and touched the cool metal of the new camera. I wasn't just a servant anymore. I was the one who protected the throne. I picked up the camera and looked through the viewfinder. The focus was perfect. I accept, I whispered. Taehyun nodded, a faint smile touching his lips. Good. Get to work, Shadow.